Alright, well, we got a story to tell you today, and as you can tell by the title of the video, we're talking about the Witch of Ringtown Valley here in Pennsylvania. I believe we're in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. Yes, I'm walking around the cemetery right now. I'm looking for her gravestone. I have no idea where it is, but hopefully we'll find it. But as I'm looking for her gravestone, I'm going to tell you the story of this woman, who actually really was not a witch. She was wrongfully accused, but it still makes for an interesting story. So as I said, as we walk around the cemetery together looking for a gravestone, I'll tell you her story. Alright, her name was Susan Mummy, or Mummy, M-U-M-M-E-Y, and she was born in 1870, and she was killed in I think it was April 17th of 1934. She was killed by a man named Albert Shinsky. And to be honest, she was not a well-liked woman here in this town. She's kind of the belligerent old neighbor that you have that always gets the arguments with you. And she was one of those people that, even though she wasn't a witch, her looks and her actions didn't really help in that area. She was often known for getting into arguments about property lines with her farm and the neighbors' farms. And that's what led to the incidents involving her death. There was a young fellow, 17 years old, named Albert, who worked on the neighboring farm. He was known as an outstanding young man. I think he had a girlfriend named Selena and seemed like a nice guy. But he was out working on this farm, and according to him, this woman, Susan, came over to the disputed property line and she glared at him. And he said he not only saw her glare at him, but he felt her glare at him. And he said ever since then, nothing was ever the same in his life. And you should be aware that in these parts of Pennsylvania, it's often known as Pennsylvania Dutch country, there's a type of folk magic called powwow or hex magic. Powwow is often like the good kind, and the hex kind is often referred to as the evil kind of this folk magic that was used. It's kind of a common thing in these parts that you would have, elderly people that were involved in that kind of stuff, which could be used, for healing people or for casting curses on people. And that's what Albert, I almost forgot his name there. That's what Albert thought that this woman did to him, Susan. He thought that she had cast a curse on him when she gave him that glare. There are a lot of tombstones here to look for, and this isn't even all of them. Up on the hill up there, there's a whole other section of cemetery. This is just the lower cemetery, so I'm trying to find her, but we're in the right area perhaps, because here's another 1934. Like I said, she died in 1934, so we want to be in that time frame, that area of the cemetery. Alright, we'll get back to the story here in a moment. But back to our story. Susan, our witch, was shot on the night of April 17th, 1934. She was shot with a shotgun. What was used to kill was these homemade lead balls called pumpkin balls. That's what they call them around here. Lead slugs. And at first they didn't have any suspects of who did it, but someone reported seeing Albert's car that night parked by this woman's home. And so they questioned him, and he didn't deny anything. He admitted to them that he had done it. And he claimed that it was because she had hexed him, 7 years ago, back when she had glared at him that day out in the fields. And he said that he couldn't help it because ever since then he had been tormented by that glare, that his life had changed totally at that moment. That he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, he always had trouble like with nightmares and stuff. He claimed that there was this black cat that was following him, and it would like morph like into the face of this woman. All kinds of creepy stuff. And like his life kind of went downhill, and he blamed it on her. He actually went to see other like powwow doctors, and they even told him that he was cursed, and the only way to get rid of the curse was to kill this woman. And so that's what he did. He claimed that as soon as he killed her, that he felt the curse lift from him. And at his trial, like, he didn't deny at all what he did. He said that it was worth, what he did was worth all the years of grief that he was going through. He said he'd rather die of the electric chair than rather continue on living with that curse. But they did not, he was not executed, he was declared criminally insane, some form of dementia they said he had. But he lived most of the rest of his life like in a special home for insane criminals. I think he was there till 7 years before he died. They let him out. Of course, like I said, he was released at some point. I think in 1976 he was released from that like insane asylum. And at that time he did deny having been cursed. He said his actions were just that of a immature man, didn't know what he was doing. And so in later years he denied that she was a witch and that his actions were wrong, actually. So even though he wasn't given like the death penalty, spending the vast majority of your life in some kind of insane asylum probably isn't that great of a thing either. Alright, I still have not found her grave. Might have to go back up to the one up on top of the hill. Man, all I could find in the research is that she's buried here. St. John's Lutheran Church Cemetery. Oh boy. I got a few more things to say about her yet. Kind of a sad story, but there's some things we can learn from it though, as always. Alright. Let's keep looking. It is a beautiful, picturesque scene though, with the little white church back there and all the nice little graveyard here. I think one thing that's hurting my search is that this graveyard is all kind of mismatched. In most cemeteries, the oldest stones are up there, and as you get further and further back, they get, newer and newer. But this one just seems kind of different. You'll find old ones, the new ones, and old ones again. But I don't know. We may have to go back up to the top of the hill. There were some people up there digging a new grave, and he did say there were some mummies up there, which is what Susan's last name was. So we might have to go back up there. Even if we don't find her, still a cool place to tell a story. What's interesting about this story is that even back in the 1930s, people were still, believing, I guess what you call it, in witchcraft, and using it as an excuse for their actions. When we think of witchcraft, we think back, the Middle Ages and stuff like that. But 1934 was not even 100 years ago. It's kind of sad too that when they reported her death the next day, no one in the town was really all that sad about it. Maybe her immediate family members were. I think she had a daughter, and there was another tenant living in that house with them. But the town wasn't really all that upset about it because she, like I said, she was not well liked. So, but I guess that's what you get for being kind of a nasty old woman, though. Not that she deserved to die, but you get a reputation sometimes. So some things to remember. There's always a lesson to learn from things. If you act like an old witch, people might start to think you're one. So I know I've met some people like that in my life, or encountered people that were just like, wow, ugh. But also, don't be like Albert and blame your bad behavior, your bad actions on someone else. We live in a society where no one really wants to take blame or take responsibility for their actions. It's always, someone else's fault for why they did what they did. So some lessons to learn always from these stories. All right, well, I'll probably stop filming for a bit because I would really want to find her tombstone. So I think my best bet is to head up to the top of the hill at the other cemetery up there. We'll see if we can find her. Well, I've been up here for some time now, up at the upper section. I haven't found a single tombstone with the last name of Mummy on it. M-U-M-M-E-Y. Of course, the one guy I talked to, I guess you call him the caretaker. He said they were up here, and he would know because he's buried a lot of people up here. But I will keep searching though. I would really like to find it. I was gonna say we could keep searching for it. I kind of wish a bunch of you were here. It would make this search a lot easier. There's just a lot of ground to cover. And I'm probably not seeing everything either, but all right, we'll keep looking for a little bit more. Got nothing else to do. Well, I should be at home editing videos, but you know, why edit videos when you could research, you know, in a supposed witch? All right, let's keep looking. All right, so we're gonna check just down here yet, because now this says St. John's Lutheran Memorial Park, and that's what my notes said. But this almost looks like a potter's field, they call it almost, because I was just up there looking at all those, and the first cemetery we're at, that little white church, was way on the other side of that hill. But I did see there are some graves down here, so there might be a hope yet, because my notes said this, unless the memorial park refers to the whole area. But we'll have a look here yet. Well, I'm gonna have to call it quits. I can't find her. You know, I can't find any, like I said, I can't find any grave with that last name on it. So I think that's it. I'm just kind of wandering around aimlessly. That section I just checked out down there was mostly newer graves down there from the 2000s. So that was no help. Alrighty, but you know, it's still kind of fun looking for her. Cool little story that I just found out about yesterday. I think I was doing some research, so I thought I'd come out and check it out. Alrighty, well, I gotta head home. I do have a few things I gotta do before it gets dark. So thanks for coming along, and don't be a belligerent old witch. Alright, I'll see you around.